Welcome to Top Tier Wrestling, your ultimate destination for all things AEW and WWE. Whether you're a hardcore wrestling fanatic or just a casual viewer, we've got you covered with the latest news, in depth show reviews, and our unfiltered opinions on everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. Join us as we dive into the high octane action, dramatic storylines, and backstage buzz of AEW and WWE. Get ready to step into the ring with us and stay on top of the wrestling world. This is Top Tier Wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, wrestling fans of all ages, welcome to the Top Tier Wrestling Podcast. Get ready to rumble with your dynamic duo, the tag team champions of podcasting, the slamming siblings, wink wink, me, Dawn the Dazzler, and Josh, the good juju slambroni. We're here to body slam boredom and drop kick you into the world of wrestling like never before. So let's get ready, grapple. This.
Hey, I'm that's a hard act to follow right there, but I'm gonna try. Let's get to grappling with our review of WWE Smackdown from October 4th. This is the
What?
Smackdown preceding the PLE Bad Blood that is happening on Saturday. And typically the go home shows or the just before a pay-per-view show is like most of the people that aren't going to be in the pay-per-view, so it's not anything to get super excited about, but this
Yeah.
SmackDown was actually pretty good. There were some fun matches. There was only one match that I felt could have been a little bit better than what we got, but it was not because of bad booking or anything. But I'll get into that. We open up tonight's or this evening's SmackDown with the return of AJ Styles, and the crowd immediately erupts.
Yeah.
It's funny how a heel can go away after doing very heel things, and
Very,
then they
very
come
heel.
back, and the crowd's like, "Yeah, we missed you. It's been 2 weeks. We've
Yeah.
completely forgotten how much of a dick you were."
They're like, he's a nice boy. That's not gonna
Exactly.
die, guys. That's not dying anytime soon.
Exactly. So when we last saw old AJ Styles several months ago, he had just been part of a series with Cody Rhodes trying to go after, unsuccessfully, mind you, the undisputed title. And the big heel thing he had done was pretending he was going to announce his retirement only to blindside Cody Rhodes in the middle of the ring in order to jump the line, so to speak, uh, and have another rematch with Cody Rhodes. This is after he was getting stonewalled by Nick Aldis, being told that he has to go back to the back of the line, and he was all like, "In this stage of my career, I can't really afford to do that." So, classic heel
Yeah.
move, and it led to the I Quit match with AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes, where Cody Rhodes threatened to, throw steel steps at him while he was in the turnbuckle corner,
Mm-hmm.
and AJ said, "I quit," because I guess he didn't want to become disfigured forever. Go figure.
What?
So
That's strange.
yeah, how you pussy.
Oh my god.
Anyway, no,
Jeez.
that becomes relevant here in a second because as AJ Styles is back in the ring, reminding everybody that he's still the face that runs the place. I guess remote work is a thing.
Boom, doom.
and and this is the house that AJ Styles built, even though SmackDown is literally named after The Rock's catchphrase, but I'll let that one go. AJ is in the middle of the ring doing his
Spicy.
thing, and then Carmelo Hayes, of course, because he's
Oh
him.
god.
We
Yeah, he
now
is him. The
Carmelo
one that
wants to make
annoys
sure
me.
that we know what his pronouns are, so he's very
He's
progressive. He's him,
very
and
forward, this one.
forward thinking
Very
man,
forward
Carmelo
thinking.
Hayes.
Very, yeah, yep, 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 yeah,
I can only give him props for that.
yeah.
So him, Carmelo Hayes, comes to the ring and is talking all kinds of shit to AJ Styles, including saying, I ain't got time for quitters, which is a reference to AJ in the I Quit match. And it's like,
Ooh,
you know what else you ain't got time for, Carmelo? A world championship title match. And
damn.
they traded that with each other too. I think AJ was something like, well, if you're him, it, then you would already be the U.S. champion. To which Carmelo says, well, if you were the face that runs the place, you would already be the undisputed champion. And it's like, ooh, trade of sick
Ooh.
burns. And rationally, AJ Styles is like, well, there's only one way to settle this, and that's by us having a match. And Carmelo, completely surprisingly, I mean, given, the way he's been portraying himself, says, nah. Um, and then for some reason, LA Knight comes out and says, hey, if you want a shot at my U.S. championship, then you wrestle AJ Styles right now. And I'm not sure I see how this correlates,
I think
but
he just wanted to make Carmelo fight. Me think so.
I guess
Um,
so. And here's the weirdest part about it too, right? Because AJ and LA Knight have no small amount of history in SmackDown themselves.
yeah,
So I couldn't help but notice that the stipulation that LA Knight threw out there, if somebody wants a championship match, was not mutual. Like it wasn't like AJ, if you win, you get a title shot, and Carmelo, if you win, you get a title shot. Now it was just Carmelo, and AJ, I guess, gets to have a job. I don't.
yeah.
So kind of a weird one, but
That's a good point. That's a good point. I don't know why he didn't do it that way. I
yeah,
think that maybe would have been a bit more interesting, but maybe they have other plans for AJ. Maybe AJ came back because I mean, they're not gonna bring you back if they don't have something for you, right? Because so I'm
I
assuming they got something for him.
I would love to believe that's true.
Well, I mean,
Um,
sometimes there are wrestlers that are just sitting at home because they don't have anything for them. So
Well, no, that
I
that is the case. That's specifically why AJ's been gone for as long as he has.
right. So if
B
he's back, I'm hoping. I don't know if it's true,
That's indicative of
but
them having something for him? Yeah,
yeah, because then what would be the point? Like, oh yeah, you're supposed to
yeah.
work, so you just come back. Like I
Well,
don't
there's a
know,
whole
but
lot of interesting ways this could have gone, and I mean, LA Knight could offer the stipulation, and it's not like they don't know how the match is booked, right? Like, he could have offered it, but somehow, some way Carmelo's gonna win, and then it could have still had those stakes, but it was never really gonna because we knew who was gonna win or not, you know what I
yeah,
mean? So they could have made it cooler than they did.
yeah,
That's my only point. Because like, I guess AJ is expected to have motivation just to want to wrestle now that he's back, and that's enough.
yeah.
But it could have been a little bit meatier. That's all I'm saying. And it could have
Also,
been. It makes it lopsided that like it seems like if what's LA Knight's interest in Carmelo Hayes, right? Does he want Carmelo to be the guy that he fights? In which case, why make him jump through hoops to do it? And if LA Knight alternatively is just looking for top challengers to, be notches on his belt for his US championship run, then wouldn't it make more sense to offer it to one of these two men and may the best man win? And that's the guy you're going to face. So,
yeah,
that beating him is an even bigger accomplishment. And so it was weird to me. That's all I'm
yeah.
saying. It was weird that they
And there's
didn't use the opportunity to have LA Knight offer a number one contendership to either man in the event of a win. And even then, if they want it to go a certain way, they can book it a certain way.
yeah. I think what LA Knight's championship run is missing is a good uh rivalry. There just really hasn't been one yet, and the
Yeah.
closest was him and AJ. I just don't see him having one with Carmelo, and I just want to say, I don't know what they're doing with Carmelo here, in WWE, but whatever character they've told him to portray, it's coming off as whiny, and I don't know why they've chosen to take that path with him. He's
Yeah.
a good wrestler, and he was pretty damn good in NXT. I mean, that's why he's here right now. So it's almost like they thought his character wouldn't fly without Trick or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he comes here, and all he has done is whine. It just sounds whiny to me. I don't know if he's intending to whine, but
It does because
um
it's a weird admixture of like one minute he's the cockiest man on earth, but then the next second he'll do or say something that makes him seem cowardly.
yeah.
And it's
And
like, are
and
you full of yourself or are you full of shit? Which one is it,
well,
Carmelo?
I mean, it's coming off like he's full of shit because I mean, let's look at his matches with what did I call him? Andrade. Let's look at
Yeah.
those matches. Every time he won, he did so like through nefarious means. Like he cheated somehow, or he got the one up, or somebody
Mhm.
distracted
Yeah.
Andrade, so then he just got a quick easy pin. I mean, like they have shown him to be uh
Yeah.
like not, or we're not talking about like
Not
a
an
sneaky
elite
heel.
wrestler.
Yeah, we're not talking a sneaky heel like Nature Boy, who could go in the ring, but poke you in the eye all the same. We're not
Yeah.
talking about like that. We're talking he just like Carmelo basically gets in the ring and has a tantrum. Like that's like his move set. It's just tantrum inducing. Like he's like, I want to win this match where? And then when it doesn't go
Yeah.
his way, or if something happens and he just freaking flat out cheats, that is not what they had him doing in NXT. He stood
Well,
on basically on the fact that he was a good wrestler. You can't come
yeah,
in here and talk
that
about
was
I
his
am
whole shtick.
him. You can't use the same slogan, the same motto, and be a different shitty wrestler. Like that just that basically kills. He basically came here
Preach.
and killed his entire mo. His entire character has been destroyed, and they still want him to
Mhm.
go around talking about I am him. Yeah, I am him. You are him, the
Yeah.
one who cheats, the one who can't win a
Well,
match. And we're talking 3-3. He comes out here and he says that he's beaten Andrade 3 times, and it's like yeah you cheated to win 3 times. While meanwhile, uh and Andrade has what beaten you fair and square three
beats him
times
straight when he beats him. Yeah.
straight.
And you're right on both counts. Like of the question of what are they doing with Carmelo and that they need a good rivalry for LA Knight. On both counts, I don't think WWE is really nailing it. Like
No.
you're spot on that Carmelo can't come out there and stand on him just being a superior athlete and wrestler when he keeps having to resort to anything but to get a win.
Yeah.
And he's coming off as whiny. These things are at odds, and it makes Carmelo a tortured character that he's trying to portray. Like not
Yeah.
tortured in a deep, cool sense, but tortured as in like it logically does not flow. It just doesn't make sense.
You know what would have
Um,
made sense, in my opinion, for Carmelo? His
mm,
heat, his rivalry should have been with Austin. What should have been with Austin Theory. That's where he should have been. Those two could have given us a banger in a match.
well,
And they could have given us a storyline with those two. Because I mean they
it's
tried to do it.
yeah, and
What?
that's I was about to tie into that. It's funny you should mention that because I think they thought the same thing initially, and then they apparently somebody screwed up badly a couple moves too many, and I think that's part of Carmelo's problem is Carmelo like had some botches in some matches early on, which might be why he's in this kind of character limbo. There was that
Hmm.
hugely bad botch of the move that Theory used to do where he would
Oh
do
yeah.
kind of a sitting on the top rope like rebound Spanish fly,
Hmm.
and I don't know who screwed that up, but it went real bad, and it looked like it could have concussed one or both of the wrestlers. Now, I don't think it did, but that ended that, and that feud ended with it.
Yeah.
So I think that already got screwed up. So it might be that Carmelo they put back into the test queue to make sure that he is in fact good enough
Yeah.
to
You're
be on the
right.
main roster and not hurt their talents. And so
I
or
forgot about that.
maybe
Yeah.
he needs to be paired with somebody more of a veteran status to get up some more. But I think like characters aside, kayfabe aside, shoot, they lost their faith in what Carmelo can be trusted to do after seeing that a couple times on the main roster. And
Yeah.
that's unfortunate. But uh so I don't think they know what to do with Carmelo right now. So they're trying to do something with him. And
Yeah.
I don't think they know how to build a good rivalry with LA Knight because I mean we could you mentioned Andrade and Carmelo, and I think like LA Knight was and I said this in an earlier podcast, LA Knight was the third wheel in what was a rivalry between those two. Like it did
Yeah.
not build a rivalry for LA Knight at all.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So that didn't really work out. Like because I don't feel like LA Knight has any significant heat after all this time with either Andrade or uh, Carmelo. And in fact,
Yeah.
they sort of left that thread dangling because you had Andrade and LA Knight having some kind of issues about like, hey, shake hands, not fist bumps, and that was dumb on its face. But I guess, they figured that out too because it's been dropped.
Yeah.
Andrade was nowhere to be found on the scene on this particular SmackDown. Um, so they haven't done a real good job of building up any kind of like heat or championship, like good championship material for LA Knight's run here. Like he's just facing who the hell ever, whenever, and that doesn't create interest. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not inherently uninteresting. We're already here to watch wrestling, so yeah, it's a wrestling match, cool, but like it doesn't have any extra oomph at all.
No.
And I don't
Nope.
feel any heat between Hayes either, like Hayes and LA Knight much either. So I don't think they've
Yeah.
done a good job on either of those two counts.
Yeah.
Carmelo's just a confused character, and LA Knight still doesn't have anybody he's in a massive rivalry with.
Why do you
So
think? Why do you think it's so? Why do you think it's seemingly so difficult for them to find a good rivalry uh for LA Knight?
I'm honestly not sure because, like, there's such wild inconsistencies between how good WWE product can be in some areas and then how freaking awful in others. Like you and I have noticed, like this particular SmackDown was actually a decent SmackDown, whereas in the
Hmm.
preceding couple of weeks they have been terrible.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just the writers and bookers over on SmackDown that just need some help. You know what I mean? Like the
Hmm.
whole product has been suffering for the last couple of weeks. Like easily SmackDown of all of what we watch and what we'll podcast on, SmackDown has been the losing product each of those weeks. Now this week it may still be slightly lesser than some of the other things, but it's not because it was a stinking hole in the ground. It's because it was just okay.
Yeah.
Um but that's an upgrade from where it's been. So, it's trending correctly. Like keep going.
Yeah.
Um that said, this leads us into a match between Carmelo Hayes and AJ Styles that is very like just throw it together. Um and it we were like at the beginning we were like, well, okay, but maybe they'll give us a really good match. Well, we didn't even get that
No.
because I think in the kayfabe, I couldn't tell you 100% for sure. They had AJ Styles like have a leg injury that results in the match being disqualified because AJ can't continue.
Yeah.
And so we didn't even really get like a hot match out of that. And
Yeah.
what it results in is a win without actually needing to win for Carmelo
Again.
so that
Again,
he can
another win. That's like,
yeah. So we can get now to a very forced like LA Knight Carmelo match in the future, I guess.
I guess.
But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and I'm assuming that this is for like kayfabe with the ankle. I thought it was his knee, but when they actually show him backstage with a quote unquote doctor at a quote unquote local hospital, um, the junkiest local hospital I have ever seen in my life, by the way. I would not take anyone to the hospital that he was apparently at. I'm like, because I thought it was his knee, and then they show him at the hospital, and they're talking about his ankle, and I'm like, I'm looking at this location, and I'm going, yeah, this feels right. It probably is his knee, but that doctor looks like he's so high, he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's your heart, like he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that I
And they
thought that
go
was
back and
hilarious.
they go back and they review it, and they figure that there was some springboard move that AJ countered that possibly caused him to sprain his ankle. And we're looking at that and we're like, okay, but it wasn't sprained so much that he couldn't break out and hit a running forearm on this sprained ankle. It wasn't so sprained from that moment on into the rest of the match that AJ couldn't do like a fireman's carry kind of a maneuver where he, drops Carmelo directly on his knee and his knee buckles. And to me, that made it look like AJ's knee. That's why we thought it was his knee,
Yeah,
because it didn't seem like that was an ankle-inducing issue. And the other
yeah,
thing is AJ Styles is a veteran wrestler, yet even with an injured leg, he can't think to not like drop somebody on said injured leg. Like the whole thing felt kind of dumb, in my opinion. And
yeah.
that
But I think they're trying to take it down the line where AJ, because earlier, and we didn't talk about this because we were just trying to focus on the match and what happened, and we see how that we see how that turned out. But earlier when Carmelo was cutting his promo or whatever on AJ, he called AJ an old timer. Um, which we both commented on, kind of like Nani the fuck, because like him, AJ and LA Knight aren't that far away in age. Um,
no,
but I
AJ's
thought
not
I
really.
this whole cutting, like, oh, he's too old for this. This goes right along with what we were talking about in a previous podcast with WWE and how they treat older male wrestlers in the sport. But now I think what they're going to do is maybe this might be AJ's last hurrah. You know what I mean by that? He'll still wrestle, but he's not going to have that on the up like he's about to have now. So I'm assuming that's what they're trying to
Yeah.
set up for AJ. Uh, because now AJ, I think, is going to start questioning whether or not he still has it in him, whether or not he can do it because his body is turning against him and blah blah blah. I think that's what they're
Which is
going with
going to
this
have 0
storyline.
interest. Like, I already got
Yeah,
tired of that back with the Cody Rhodes fake retirement line. AJ
yeah,
Styles was gone for a little while after Solo Sikoa put him through a table. Theoretically, I guess, because he wanted some vacation time. Because, I mean, that ain't gonna, put anybody out for a super long time. But
yeah.
AJ comes back in the best shape of his life. And I mean, nowadays more than ever across wrestling rosters, we're seeing that it's more about how fit you are, not about how old you are. And you've got guys like AJ who go away for a while, come back more jacked than they've ever been in the history of their entire career. And like Randy Orton did the same thing. Now, Randy Orton
Yeah.
did suffer a decent set of injuries that resulted in a surgery that he did in fact have to recover from, but he recovered and then some. Like he came back like he's training to, win a bodybuilding competition.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really don't think age matters that much. So it's not
No.
that interesting. Like clearly a guy who is fitter than he has ever been is more dangerous or more capable than they've ever been in
I
their
mean,
whole career. So
especially
it's a
especially if they
dumb way to
have that,
go.
and experience. Because then what's stopping that dude? Honestly, like you mean like he?
Literally nothing but bad writing and poor booking. That's the only
Yeah,
thing stopping that dude.
but we're talking about the way WWE looks at older male wrestlers. I mean, it's just, and that's
Yeah.
the one thing
No,
that
it's true.
that's something that I like about AEW versus WWE. I'm not saying like more about, I like both of them just fine, but you know what I mean. There's good and bad to me in both promotions, and this is probably a bad that WWE does that I think AEW kind of doesn't. They kind of just go with skill and storyline instead of, oh, you're too old to do this or too old to do that. Um, but overall, yeah, overall, this whole opener was kind of a meh. Um, yeah. And then I don't have much to say about it after that. Speaking of things I don't have much to say about, the next match,
Yeah.
Michin versus Chelsea Green. Now let me explain. I'm not saying that it was a bad match. It was better than I thought. But what I mean is, I don't have much to say about Michin or Chelsea Green outside of this match. Um, that I haven't already said. Just looking at the match itself, it was a dumpster match. Um, and Green
You got to
Chelsea.
clarify a little bit because that makes it like dumpster fire. Calling a match a dumpster
No,
fire is so common. Like it might sound like that's what you mean, but it's not. Like
no,
literally a
yeah,
dumpster match.
it was literally a dumpster match. Like the winner had to put their opponent into a giant garbage can and a giant dumpster, and then close the lid. That's how you won the match.
Yep.
Um, it was standard. Uh, Michin came out with a trash can that only had two kendo sticks in it because, and she walked around like she was the Hulk with the trash can for a minute. She pulled out the two kendo sticks, and I
She's doing the most to carry an aluminum trash can with
doing
two kendo
the
sticks.
most, like the utmost, y'all. But then she pulls out two kendo sticks, and I jokingly said to Josh at that time, I was like, yeah, so she's gonna take those sticks and watch. She's gonna give Chelsea one, and I think Josh was like, no, kind of like, there's no way. And guess what she does?
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Yeah,
like,
she.
why would you do that? You know,
Why would you
like
get
you have two kendo sticks. She has none. Advantage yours. Beat the crap out of her. You know.
twice beer
Um.
twice, left and right? Come on,
Yeah.
be
Now
be a drummer.
I will say of this match. The only real criticism I have about this is that switching to a four-match format, and I made this. I won't dwell long on this because I made this point exhaustively on the last SmackDown. But like when you only got four, and we're kind of running back several matches, it can be stale. And this is like been Michin versus Chelsea Green, Michin versus Piper Niven, Michin versus Piper Niven, and now Michin versus Chelsea Green. So like
Yeah,
this is a rubber band of these particular wrestlers. And there's some value in that, I guess. They have a little bit of chemistry and whatnot, but I mean it really like notably feels stale and it makes me wonder like where's the rest of your roster? Like that said, this particular match was actually I found really entertaining and had more like good wrestling in it than I thought to expect from either Meechin or Chelsea Green.
yeah.
Um, there was like I think Chelsea Green drilled Meechin with a Canadian destroyer, and let me
Hmm.
just say I'm happy to see that making a comeback.
Yeah.
Um, Meechin's finisher, Eat Defeat, doesn't do much for me. It's not that she did it bad or that it looked bad. It's just not a move that I think is that impressive. Like that looks like a move that you should do to set up like a better move, not your finish. It's a weak
Yeah.
finisher. Um and let's see. I know we had a couple of nasty high spots right on the apron near the dumpster, but the piece de resistance, the thing that was really really good in this match was Chelsea Green getting power bombed like nicely so by Meechin through a table into the dumpster. Like
Yeah.
on the whole, a not bad match, but that was
Nah.
a cherry on top. That was just
Yeah.
so good.
The finisher was super nice. I was a huge fan of that, and we were kind of when they pulled out the table with no legs, we were like, "I'm sorry, what?" We thought that they were doing
Yeah,
some sexist shit. You know what I mean? Where they were pulling out tables for women that
yeah,
didn't have legs
yeah.
because
Well,
women
because
sometimes have issues. Pulling
women in
the
particular,
legs out.
like we can see any wrestler on any given night kind of struggle to get the table and the legs in place,
Yeah,
but it seems like every time with the ladies, like tables, legs, and setup is just like, how does this work?
yeah. Except for
And
Becky
so
Lynch because she learned from the best.
yeah, um, and so yeah, we initially thought, did they give these ladies a table with no legs so that they didn't have to worry about trying to set it up right? And that didn't turn
Yeah.
out to be the case. It
Yeah, we
turned
were
out that
we
it
were
was
gonna get a little heated, y'all. Like seriously,
yeah. It turned out that it was so that the table would actually sit properly when it was set up across the
Yeah,
dumpster's
and
edges.
they wouldn't be getting like metal bars to the spine when they did this, because that'd be a bad
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
So yeah, but then when we saw the table go up on the dumpster, we were both like, "Oh, okay, all right."
Now it makes sense. Now we
Yeah,
get it.
we're
And
we're
it
all
was
sitting at
brilliant
the edge of our
because
seats, ready to just
yeah,
fucking snap, and then we're like, "Oh, okay, it's cool, it's cool."
but it was good. It was good because one, you didn't have to deal with like in the limited space of the dumpster. You also didn't have to deal with the legs everywhere. You just had to deal with the two
Yeah,
pieces of board, and it also looked like they removed the the little plastic strip that runs along the sides of those tables
yeah.
that
Oh
often
yeah,
like kind of clotheslines the back of heads of
yeah.
wrestlers.
Wrap it
They
around
got rid of
throats.
that too. So that was good, and the power bomb looked slick, and that secures Meechin a win. Despite Piper Niven trying to, insert herself into the match near the end, and
Yeah.
then we get the real treat was Chelsea coming back up after the match was over, and she's just covered in like all the trash. Like I don't like apparently after that power bomb, every piece of trash and trash bag that was in that dumpster literally exploded. And Chelsea came up covered, like just drenched in gross. And it was like, oh man. And it led to just this running gag for the whole rest of the show and even into Bad Blood, which we'll talk about in another podcast. Um,
Yeah.
but a running gag of Chelsea stinking. And the whole match was really fun, and it was a lot better than what I would have expected, to be perfectly honest, going in. And
Yeah.
I found myself really enjoying it. This one was a fun one. Um, so kudos to them. After that match, we sort of cut to the scene you were talking about earlier where AJ Styles is getting checked out by the
Yeah.
trainer, but it ultimately goes to a local hospital. Although at the time they said he's at the local hospital, I think, and we're like, that just looks
Yeah.
like the training room. And
Oh,
so
we
maybe,
were like the local hospital has like fucking crates and shit just like lined up against the wall and like boxes and
yeah, it looked like a trainer room. And we were like, but I don't know, maybe we misheard it. And they said, he's currently, I don't know. But at the time we thought, like, that's not a local hospital. So
yeah.
but and that was when we figured out that they said it was like an ankle thing because like prior to that we were under the impression that it was a knee thing because in the
Yeah.
replay it looked like AJ's knee completely hyperextend buckled when he
Looked
dropped
like knee issues. Yeah. Looked like
yeah, when
knee
he dropped
issues.
Carmelo onto it. It was like ugh.
Yeah.
Um
And I mean it actually looked bad. We actually thought that
yeah.
it wasn't a work. We thought that he'd actually injured himself. Or as I like to call it, pulled a CM Punk. But you know, he did. Yeah, I said it. I said it. But he did. He didn't. Listen. Out of this podcast, guys, I'm the heel. All right. If there's a face and a
Yeah.
heel on the podcast, I would be the heel. All right. I said it. I said what I said. Um,
That's okay. We should get our shots in now because we're actually going to have to give the man propers for what happens at Bad
a
Blood. So
lot of
go ahead.
propers. Yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead and ding him now while we
yeah,
can.
yeah. That's right. Take that ding, Mister Punk. um, Mister Punk. That's an insult. Yeah, you take that, Mister Punk. Mister, come on. Um, but then after that match, excuse me. Uh, I have a hiccup that's trying to happen. After that match, though, we did see AJ Styles, like you said, and then Jade and Bianca, right? They came up and they were talking
Yep.
to Naomi. And they also told Naomi that she was going to be hosting Bad Blood with them, and so they were
With
like,
them,
"Oh,
yeah.
yeah." They did the screamies, and then they were doing the dancing, and then Bailey tried to join in with the dancing, and Cargill and Bianca were like, "Oh hell no!" So
Yeah. They might as well have shouted that.
yeah, they
Um,
were like, "Yeah, hell
it was
no."
pretty funny how quickly like Bailey joining in on that dance, they were like, nope.
Yeah. Like Bailey immediately killed that vibe. So they're like, "I'm gonna let you talk to your friend," and they bounce. Naomi
And
and go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's twofold, and this gets referenced a little bit in some segments they do together in Bad Blood later. But I think it's not just like immediately on its face, it's like, oh no, this white girl is joining into our dance. I don't think it was
No,
as simple as that. I think you can interpret a little of that, but I think it's more specifically that Bianca Belair still has really bad feelings about Naomi.
yeah,
Like, because she hasn't forgiven her for what Damage Control did,
no,
and
not
when she was
Naomi,
a part of it.
Bailey.
Did I say Naomi?
Yeah,
Oh, my bad. Yeah, Belair, Bianca Belair has
yeah,
the issue with her, and Naomi is like super best buds with Bailey now, and that's a point of contention between her and Bianca and Bailey and all of that.
yeah.
Um,
What I meant to say was, I'm sorry. What I meant to say was, you got the names right, except when you were referencing Bailey, you said Naomi. When you said Belair has issues, still has issues with Naomi,
oh, yeah,
but you
no,
meant
no,
Bailey.
I
So
I didn't mean it that way. Yeah, my
yeah,
bad. I meant Bianca Belair still has strong issues with Bailey that tie back
yes,
to Damage Control that included Bailey at the time, giving
yeah,
Bianca Belair like nothing but hell since their return. Like her
yeah,
entire like Bianca's championship run was just Bailey and Damage Control upper butt, and she's
yeah.
not so quick to be like, I'm cool now. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and y'all know how it is with friends. Cargill wasn't here for that, but Jade is like, you don't like her, I can't like her, so she's doing that too. So that's why they were both like,
Yeah.
mm.
But alternatively, Naomi was similarly like, I wasn't here for that. And, when I was last here, Bailey was cool. So they all have a different history with Bailey, which sort of colors why they react to her the way they do.
Yeah. But she came just to reiterate that she was gonna go, and Bailey came up. I meant to say, uh, and basically just to let her know that she was about to go call out Nia Jax, and she reiterated that once she got once she won Bailey, once she won the match against Nia, uh, Naomi would be the first person that she would give a title shot to. Um, and so Bailey goes out there. She wastes no time calling out Nia. Uh, Nice music cuts, and of course, oh, and Bailey even said you can bring Tiffany too. So Tiffany comes out with her. Um, and I mean, keep in mind, Tiffany has a match like a later with Naomi. So she was gonna come out either way, right? So they all go out there, and I think uh Bailey cut a really good promo. Uh, I thought she talked a
Yeah.
lot of noise, and she sounded strong. And I think she
Yep.
held her own because you guys know what this turns into, what it ultimately turns into. Stratton's there with Naya, and of course, if there's going to be an attack, both of them are going to jump onto Bailey, which happened. But I mean, Bailey held her own. She held her own on the mic, and she did so on the mat. She looked really good in that particular promo. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And
yeah,
I mean, I'm always a little leery though sometimes when they talk about like, this is the history of this title and they cite former champions and I'm
yeah,
like,
hmm
you're intimating that Jax doesn't deserve to be the champion, but she beat you,
yeah,
and she beats people quite regularly. Like it's not like Nia can't demolish the people that they put in the ring with her. If anything, her history has a bit of an indication that she actually can kick the crap out of these women because for a while there it was portrayed that she's not safe to work with.
yeah,
Um so I'm always a little leery of that. Like when you're trying to present this idea that the champion doesn't deserve to be the champion, and it's like, well, then why do they have the belt?
yeah,
That's a whole lot of noise coming from the person without the belt to the person
yeah,
with it.
yeah,
Don't sing
and
it, bring it, to quote Scott Hall.
yeah, and and I mean, if I were going to like just break down what Bailey was saying ultimately, then I could go, well, girl, hang on. I could, honestly. But I think the overall vibe is, I think what they were trying to get um, through as far as Bailey was concerned, I think they did it, is what I'm trying to say. Um,
They did, and I did like where the promo went. I like
yeah.
where she was like, right now there's two people or two women in this division that you got to worry about that could take that belt off you. One of them's me, Bailey said, and the other
Hmm.
one is Tiffany Stratton. And so we sow some more of that dissension that they keep stirring about like Stratton cashing in
Yeah.
on Jax. Um, so
Which still
and
to
and
me doesn't have a lot of heat on it. It just doesn't. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Yeah. I don't disagree, and especially since like it doesn't look like the couple of times like they went on to try and intimate like Bailey attacks Nia and grabs the briefcase off of Stratton and hits Jax with it before leaving. And then when Stratton goes to pick it up, there's a like a referee there because she's about to wrestle Naomi, and they're like, "Oh my God, is she gonna cash it in?" And like she wasn't doing anything but kind of holding it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not making me think that she is going to cash it in. It's just making me think that the announcers really want us to think that she's going to cash it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Um. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say after that, they sort of cut away, and then Naomi is coming out for the scheduled match with Stratton, and um, they give Naomi a bit of her intro, and this is something they do that I don't love because I sometimes want to watch these intros, but like you get the intro and then they cut to a different segment, like right as a match is about to begin. And so what they did here was after Naomi did kind of her intro and made her way to the ring, they cut to Chelsea Green walking through the hallways, apparently super stinky and distraught about having lost her match. And they run into Pretty Deadly, and Pretty Deadly about like just completely breaks down over the stench, and so they disappear. And then you have A Town Down walking with like a cake for some reason. And Austin's like, man, my cake stinks. And Waller's like, no, that's Chelsea Green.
Yeah,
And then
and they're
they
both,
both
both like,
leave.
bruh.
And then Legado del Fantasma, who historically are known to not specifically Legado, but like the two members, Angel and Umberto, um previously were like Latin lover types, and so they would always hit on the pretty women, and even they're like nope, and away from
Yeah.
Chelsea Green. And so she keeps walking until she gets to Nick Aldis, who makes several puns about how bad Chelsea Green smells until Green storms off. And so it was a funny segment, but it's like, weren't we just about to have a match? um
Yeah.
And after that, since Nick Aldis is on screen, Carmelo shows up saying he wants his U.S. title shot, and Aldis is like, "I can't believe you are calling what happened out there an actual win." And Hayes
Really?
is like, "Why? I won." He couldn't continue, and they sort of just leave that hanging. And then they return to the Tiffany
Wait.
Stratton versus Naomi match,
I'm sorry.
and
I'm sorry. Carmelo said all that? Because all I heard when Carmelo was talking was wah, wah, wah.
I agree that is sort of what it sounded like, but he was like, "Yeah, why wouldn't it?"
Yeah, I'm
And
kidding. I'm kidding.
so we come to this match with Tiffany Stratton versus Naomi, which quite possibly takes match of the night. Um, because Tiffany Stratton and Naomi both like bring it, and both of these
Yeah,
women can go, and it ends up being a really fantastic match.
I agree. It was really good. Um, Naomi looked really good. And you know what? I could say both of them went toe to toe. I can't really think of anything. I don't remember any like actual flubs or anything. It looks
No,
like they had really good chemistry. They worked very well together. in the ring. Tiffany looked good. Tiffany always looks good when she's in the ring, just always.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Naomi looked good. Naomi looked like a strong competitor. Um,
Yeah, and there were some decent high spots here. There was a spot where Naomi hits the backpack stunner, and that looked cool. And there was a really cool, like really excellent spot where Naomi does a head scissors driver, and that looks fantastic.
mhm.
And earlier in the night, Naomi had hit her with X Factor. She tries to go for it again, but Stratton like handstands out of it as a counter, and that looked outstanding. Like it looked
Yeah,
really good. And so these women were just going after each other, and it was a really solid match. The
yeah,
ultimate conclusion to which is um, Stratton gets caught for a quick roll up pin, and Naomi catches the win. But this was a really pretty solid match, to be perfectly honest. Like it was the kind of match that after it was over, I'm like, I can't wait to see Naomi and Stratton run this back because
yeah,
I want to see what those two can do in the ring with each other. It was really good.
yeah. I am really interested to see them go at it again.
Yeah, I think so. Um,
Mhm. After that, um, we had a wasn't it a backstage? Yeah, no, actually, they did the thing about Kevin Owens and his issues that he's having
yeah,
with
they did
Cody
the look back.
Rhodes. Yeah, over Rhodes teaming with Roman. Uh, yeah, that drama.
That is apparently an angle they're really trying to push. And I say
I
that
don't get
because,
it though. Like,
well,
what's the end game?
I'm not sure, but apparently that clash goes deeper than this. Like they had the issues on the previous SmackDown. They didn't have so much of that this SmackDown, but they did a look back at it, and then again, kind of referring to the future. This didn't happen in Bad Blood, but after Bad Blood, after Bad Blood, there apparently was a dust up between Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens backstage, and I'm pretty sure this is kayfabe, right? But
Yeah,
the way WWE is handling it is like Triple H put out a tweet that said, "We're aware of the altercation that occurred between Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. We're handling it internally." So it's a kayfabe thing that they're trying to act like is not a kayfabe thing. And so they're really, really pushing Kevin Owens like going after Cody Rhodes, and so we'll see where that goes. Um, I
yeah,
I think it's because like he needs something to do while the bloodline's going to be doing its thing, and so this is where they're going with it.
yeah. Oh, you know what? That's a really good point. Yeah, maybe that's it. Um,
So we'll see. As long as it doesn't, as long as they can make me believe in it, is the thing. Like right now, I'm not sure why Kevin is so, irritated, and I would really like him to try and explain it, because it seems very like petty or stupid.
yeah,
Like this is a guy that you've been helping for a long, long time, and now because he had like one match with Roman Reigns because they both hate the current bloodline, like you are super butthurt. And that's how it feels. Like it feels like Kevin Owens is just being a butthurt baby about it, and I don't
yeah,
think that's great for like wherever this is trying to go. And it certainly does not help Kevin Owens. Like he doesn't need to get buried here because he looks like such a
right.
a little bitch about it, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll see where they're trying to go with it. That's developing, I guess.
Yeah. My thing is if they keep going this route, if they keep going the way where Kevin is literally just crying about it, just like being a big baby about this, because like you said, that is honestly what it sounds like to me, like he's having a temper tantrum. You know what I mean? Uh, they keep going that route. Eventually, the
Yeah.
only person that'll be able to understand him is Carmella. I can't let it go. I'm healing out super hard today.
you you are like giving Carmelo the business. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but man,
Oh,
somewhere Carmelo Hayes is sitting around like I don't know, maybe he's in a workout and he's like, "Ow, why is why do I burn? Um,
Oh my god.
but moving past that particular issue, we've got the Bloodline making their way out to the ring for the final match of the night,
Yeah.
and Jacob Fatu, like on the walk there, cuts a decently nice rant promo on how people need to respect Solo. And
Yeah.
I liked it because they portray Jacob Fatu as like just a force of nature, right? Like he's just
Mhm.
all he knows how to say is "I love you, Solo," and admittedly, he says that a lot. But this
Yeah.
was cool to see that there's a brain behind the insanity that is Jacob Fatu.
Yeah.
And so I thought he did a really good job, especially cutting a promo while walking with, towards the ring. He certainly, probably, to be honest, and I don't want to say this, and bury Solo, especially
Yeah.
when there was so much speculation that he was going to overshadow Solo. He did.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Um,
Yeah.
but Jacob Fatu is clearly the best thing going in this new bloodline right now. Like he's far better than Tama Chameleon and Tonga
God.
Loa, and he is actually outshining Solo in a lot of respects.
Yeah.
Um, so Jacob Fatu right now is the whole reason to look at whatever the new or the bastard bloodline, the offshoot bloodline is doing right now. Um, so really nice promo from Jacob Fatu.
Yeah.
And then the next kind of backstage segment is Tiffany Stratton running into Nia Jax, who isn't happy with the tease of the cash in. And she says, at this point, I think you're just taunting me with it. And she demands that Stratton vow she'll never betray her. Um,
Because they're
which
family.
she does. But then as as Jax is walking away, Stratton kind of, makes a face and looks at the briefcase. And it's like, okay. I mean, at this point, I feel like I'm watching the same exchange between these two for several weeks in a row. And it's like, what the vibe it gives me is too little material stretched out across too many segments. Um, how about you? I mean, do you see that where it's like you're not really saying anything new or different here, right? Like we get it that the angle is that Nia Jax has Tiffany Stratton to worry about, and Tiffany Stratton's playing some kind of keep your enemies closer game. We get
You
it,
know,
but I feel like they're hammering the same point home week after week without much forward momentum to
I
this.
I think they're doing that because there really is nothing else from these two ladies. Like, there really is nothing else to give us. What are they gonna talk about? They don't know each other. You know what I mean? Like this is something that they've just thrown together, and the only interaction we see from them is Naya talking about how upset she is about something, and just pick something, and then we have
And that
Stratton
it's somehow
reassuring
Tiffany's
her.
fault. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Stratton is somehow reassuring her that it's not. Listen, I don't know what the dynamic was. Remember when I said a few podcasts ago, many moons ago, or it feels like it, that they were doing this weird thing where they were so after Stratton had that little tafu in real life about that post that she made, and people were starting to call Stratton racist. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So
Something having to
yeah,
do with a strike in the corner against Bianca Belair, where
yeah, and
she
then she
supposedly said
used.
a racial epithet or
Well,
something.
she didn't say it, but she used a meme where somebody said something offensive. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds about that particular part. I just want to point
Yeah.
out that I said that I felt like they put Tiffany with Naya right after that to basically go, see, she's not racist.
Oh,
She's with the friend. She's with the person
right,
of
right.
color, and
So
they're friends. Okay, now you
yeah,
remember that,
a
right?
bit of damage control, if you will.
Right. Well, this isn't a good look now. Because if that's what you were saying, and now you're telling me that this person of color that she's with is abusive for no reason, grabbing her throat, trying to choke her. Do you see the problem here? So
Yeah, yeah.
this isn't a good
Well,
look. So I don't know what the plan is, but it doesn't look good. There's nothing amusing. When you had Pretty Deadly there for like a little bit, that was somewhat amusing. But now we've gone from comical to she wants to be the female Roman Reigns without any of the story. Like there's no story,
yeah.
there's no back, there's nothing. There's just I'm an angry giant woman who will physically abuse people if I don't get my way. That's a bad look,
Well,
guys.
part of that is pro wrestling, right? Like everybody
Right.
resorts to more violence than we do in our day-to-day lives, and that's the sell, right? Like, oh,
I
I get to
Yes.
punch that douchebag in the face and not go to jail.
But
Um,
I'm trying to point out how sometimes you want to ignore some real life shit. Don't try to bring that into your storyline if you don't know where you're going with it. If you don't have a clear plan from point A to point B, please don't bring something like that into it, especially when it's like this whole, race BS that we just
well,
come on.
that's assuming that that's even the angle, right? Like that
Assuming if
that could
that's the
be
angle.
what's
Yes.
getting read into it more, more or less. But
Right, they could have
I
been
mean,
planning that before this. You know what I mean? Before that bullshit happened, they
well,
could have been planning that. But
just real quick, I mean, we all know we're going to sidestep kayfabe and just talk about real life. Real life, we all know these are individuals who are performers. They all work for one company.
mhm,
y- I in no way, shape, or form am willing to buy the idea that Bianca Belair, Naomi, or Jade Cargill would have anything to do with Tiffany Stratton if that was the case. So I don't think
mhm.
any of that was ever really an issue. I think the internet made
Yeah,
that an issue.
I
And I don't
agree.
think the WWE sees it that way. I don't think Stratton would be meteorically rising to the top like she is if she didn't play well with others, including, the women of color on the roster, who she seems to be playing well with a lot. And
Yeah,
I don't think it's like, well, we need to put this girl accused of racism in here with the women of color. I think it's because Tiffany Stratton is legitimately one of the most forceful athletes, and the other most forceful athletes on that roster are Naomi and Bianca and Jade, or someone big like Nia.
yeah,
So it's not because we need her to look good in the ring with these women of color to diffuse that. I think it's more that she is one of the top performers, and she can get as physical with these other great women of color who are also extremely physically fit, like specimens. Like Bianca
yeah.
Belair is a physical specimen, Jade is a physical specimen, Naomi also. you know Nia Jax, any mean jokes aside, Nia Jax is probably one of the biggest and toughest of the women performers. So she
Oh yeah,
needs to, if she doesn't want to have to put on kit gloves to even be in the ring with them, have another person to perform with who is strong and physical.
yeah.
And I think that's why we're seeing Stratton paired up with these, not because, they're trying to make
I'm
it look
hoping.
like, well, see, she
Yes,
can play nice with the people of color. And I think that's
but
just the
but I mean,
internet.
but yes, yeah. That's it. You just took the words right out of my mouth. The internet's gonna internet. Um, I mean, they right after that they went so far as to start looking up Stratton's uh like real life situation. Like, is she a Republican? Is she a Democrat? And I'm like, okay, well, we're done
Yeah,
with that. I'm
keep
out.
that bullshit out, please. I mean,
It's
I watch
wrestling,
wrestling
please.
for escapism from that bullshit.
Come
That's
on,
I could
please.
we could launch a whole nother podcast based on that, but I wouldn't
Oh
want to because I'm
Lord.
so sick of it in the main. Like I
Yeah,
keep that out of my escapism is all I've got to say. I ain't
yeah,
interested.
yeah,
It's stupid.
yeah. I agree. Um,
But
but after yeah,
following oh, go ahead.
but after all of that,
Same page.
yeah, after all of the backstage business, I think. Oh yeah, no, they did all that with the Bloodline, Tiffany Stratton backstage. Yeah. Then after that, they had a Bad Blood promo, basically talking more about Bad Blood, and then we
Yeah.
got into the main event of the night, which was a tag team titles match between the Bloodline. Or what do they call themselves? Gorillas of War.
Gorillas of Destiny or something like
Yeah,
that? Or
something.
no,
Yeah,
I
of
don't know,
war.
Gorillas of God. I don't know. It's something like that.
Yeah, well, the Bloodline versus DIY versus Street Profits, and I've seen DIY in a ladder match before, um, and they were really good. And this ladder match honestly wasn't as good as that particular ladder match, but it wasn't a slouch either. It was a
No, it
decent
was pretty
match.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, it
I,
was it
I'll
was pretty good.
I'll certainly say this. With the lesser members of the bloodline involved, the Gorillas of Destiny, who, I mean, I'm just not impressed with Tamagaucha. No, what's Tamatonga or Tongaloa. Um, Tongaloa has had a history of just botching the few times he was expected to do anything, and Tamatonga coming out with the has just undermined
I'm
any like
telling you. Yep.
previously before he made that stupid noise and sounded like an angry chihuahua. They were trying to sell you how dangerous these men were, and it's like the only one of them that's actually dangerous, like in the way you're trying to indicate, might be Jacob Fatu, because
Yeah.
he's actually done some time. He's also easily the best in-ring performer of anybody in this current bloodline. Um, so trying to convey this idea that like Tama Tonga and Tonga Lower are dangerous, I'm just not with it.
Yeah.
And a big
Yeah.
part of it is because Tama Loa, no, Tama Tonga, he undermined any intimidation. Sorry, getting attacked by a sneeze. He
Ah,
undermined
that's
any
good.
intimidation that he had with the whole yapping like a chihuahua thing. Like now he just seems like a bad joke. And same thing with Tongaloa in that he's dangerous in the sense that he's going to botch spots. I'm sorry, it's hard to come back and make me think that this dude's worth anything when he punched Kevin Owens in the butt, failing to deliver a low blow. It
Yeah. And,
so
and that
I had below basement level of expectations for the bloodline. I'm not that up on DIY. I'm just not that into Johnny Gargano, and I feel like we get a far diminished version of blanking on his name for some reason. Tommaso Ciampa. We get a
yeah.
far diminished version of him than what we had in NXT, and it's been the case since he's been on the main roster. He had
Yeah.
exactly one moment where we got to see some of the beast that was Tommaso Ciampa, and that was the one time he had one match with Gunter. That's
Yeah.
it. Every other time he's either been some sycophantic fanboy for the Miz, or he's been paired up with Johnny Gargano, who is doing nothing but like tanking where Tommaso could be, in my opinion.
I
So
agree. I
the
think
only thing,
Tommaso Ciampa. I think he is a excellent candidate for AEW. Um, that's just my opinion, guys. Oh wait, I'm a heel right now. I don't care what you think. No. Um, I honestly think that seriously, I think he would do really good in AEW. That's not to say that he isn't good in WWE. He is. He's just being held back. I think held down for some reason.
yeah,
He had when he came back from injury, he had a semi decent match with the Miz. He came back and it was like he had like a brutal side here, and we were like, oh, okay, this is good. And then he had that really good match with Gunther, and then after that, like you said, he's just been kind of tied down to other or two tag team partners. And I mean, no offense, man, but Gargano is kind of a snooze. And I know that they used to be together and blah blah blah, but I don't know. I feel like Tomasa was so much more watchworthy when he was by himself and just trying to I don't know. I think about Champa and I think, man, I'd like to see him go against Pac. That's what I'm thinking.
oh, the you mean the bastard Pac, like, or
Yeah,
Pac over in? Okay,
yeah, the Bastard Pac.
yeah, I could see that.
So maybe I'm just wishfully thinking or wishfully just hoping that he'll go to AEW. Um, I just feel like his talents are being squandered. They're being wasted here, and that's just a small gripe that I have sometimes with WWE. And I don't know whose fault it is, but sometimes they just don't see the potential in a wrestler that they've hired, um, or they
Well,
see something different in that
yeah,
wrestler than the fans do, and that person will get looked over or sometimes fired in some cases like oh my god, the guy to the moon, you know who I'm talking about, Cameron Grimes.
yeah,
um
yep.
and they just kind of fall by the wayside. I don't know what Cameron Grimes is doing, but I hope I see him somewhere soon. um
Yeah, and to take that idea and run with it, I agree with you. Tommaso Ciampa was one of the most dominant NXT champions they had.
yeah, yeah,
And so to take that guy and look at where they've got him now is an embarrassing misuse of Tommaso Ciampa, in my opinion. Like just wasted. And I feel the same way about what they did. Pretty Deadly was like super over tag team champions in NXT. And now
yeah,
they barely get 2 minutes to do a gag spot on SmackDown. And instead
yeah,
we're looking at DIY or, you know, Tonga and Tongaloa who wouldn't be worth even looking at. I'm sorry, I'm going to be real here. They wouldn't be worth the time it takes to run the intro if they weren't attached to the biggest storyline that WWE is rocking right now.
yeah,
Otherwise, they would be the most mediocre of mediocre talents. This would have been a far better match without either them or DIY. Instead, give me Pretty Deadly and I don't know the New Day or something. Any
yeah,
other set of tag teams, and it's particularly egregious that Pretty Deadly is being as like just underutilized and buried as they are.
yeah.
Um,
And I'm not even sure why, man. Again, that's another tag team, like you said, that came from NXT, on a high, on an up, and that just got squashed.
yeah, and I'm not sure
Uh,
why, but
yeah,
there's three examples that we've cited just tonight, or just in this
yeah,
podcast. We've
yep,
talked
yep,
about Pretty Deadly, we've talked about Tommaso Ciampa, and we've talked about Carmelo. Like
yeah,
Carmelo was very dominant and kicked a lot of ass in NXT. And what are we wasting him on right now? I mean, what's happening with him?
yeah,
So it's like these guys can really get over in NXT and then they have to start at the bottom and be wasted for however long in the main roster. And it makes it seem like the main roster is not an upgrade for a lot of these guys.
yeah. Oh, because it's not, is it? It's not. And why bring them over and then just change or immediately change damn near everything about them? Why did you bring him over? Like Carmelo got brought over from NXT, I thought, because he was really good. He had a really good shtick. His character was good. He had the I am him business going, and then he got in the ring and he proved it. But then you bring him over to WWE and have him still be I am him, but just kind of win in nefarious ways now? Every win that
Yeah.
he's had has been that. Why would you do that? Why did you change that?
Yeah, I
Like,
agree. It's a mystery to me. But it there really is like a case to be made that these guys don't do better by being brought to the main roster.
he
Cameron
couldn't be
Grimes
a
had a
heel.
career
He
for
couldn't be a
years
heel.
in NXT before he came to SmackDown, where he had like two matches, was buried, and then fired.
Seriously. But I mean, you're telling me Carmelo Hayes couldn't be a heel without being dominant? He has to be a
Yeah,
heel in a rat bastard sort of way. When he was a face, semi face, I mean, you could call him a face, I guess, in NXT. He still had the same attitude, right? He still had the same like I am him, like but he just proved it. I just think it's crazy that they bring him over to WWE and still be like, hey, you still got the I am him persona, but then he added this really goofy ass laughing that he was doing. Remember that? Like what?
yeah, yep.
What are we doing? Like, did they tell him you need to be extra? Extra what? What was the extra? Like, I don't think they defined well enough what they needed this guy to do. But whatever the case, you can't have like, I don't know. You can't use, in my opinion, right? You can't have the same personality of somebody who used to be a champion, like a fighting champ, like a winner, have the same mentality, but then just make him goofy weasel laughing, and then cheating, or just basically getting a quick pin, or using something to his advantage to win a match instead of just getting in the ring and proving it by whipping some ass like he did in NXT. Come on.
Yep.
Ah, what are you gonna do? You know?
Yeah. But turning our attention back to this match, it was a credible ladder match.
Yeah, it
I
was.
agree. You and I have probably seen better ladder matches,
Oh
but this
yeah.
one wasn't too bad. There was only really one spot that I think looked like it was kind of at least a little bit of a botch, and it was when the Street Profits went for a Doomsday Blockbuster where Montez had to jump over a ladder to get at I think it was Tommaso Ciampa that was on the shoulders.
Yeah.
Um and he missed like they even replayed it kind of in slow motion, and it showed that he did the flip over, but instead of grabbing Ciampa, he more or less just like forearmed him, and then it was kind of a messy landing. And I
Yeah.
understand those things happen, but it made the spot less than I think it was intended to be. Like it went from a high spot to a oops spot. Um and there was a really nice dive. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Montez. He did a huge dive on Tongaloa through the announce table,
Yeah.
or no, through a table, and then Tama Tonga gets power bombed through the announce table, and that essentially sets the stage for what you would think would be either of the two challenger teams being able to get in there and win the belts off of the bloodline. Um, However, the two challengers then go kind of after each other long enough to allow Tongaloa to then get in there, climb the ladder, and secure the belts, so the bloodline retains.
Mm. Yeah.
An okay match.
Okay match.
So on the whole,
I think the Tiffany Stratton match versus Naomi, I think that was better. I think it was the match of the night, but this is probably the second best match. It was good. It was good. It was
yeah,
fun.
out of four
Montez,
matches, I would agree.
that jumping from the corner to the ladder, that looked good. I mean, it was a fun match. Would I remember it like, while I talk about this match like a month from now? Probably not. I would probably still talk about the last ladder match that I saw in WWE. Because the very last one that I saw, I'm trying to remember what event that was, but it was spectacular versus this one. And again, that one had
Was it the
DIY in it too.
women's? Oh no, it was the men's. Okay.
Yeah. And the women's ladder match again, that was another great one. See
Would it
those
be
our
the Money in the Bank ones then? Like,
I
because I
think it
remember the
was,
women's
yes.
and men's Money in the Bank matches were very good.
Yeah, though you spot on. You got it. Yeah, those two. Those I'd still talk about those. A year from now, I'm still gonna be talking about those matches. 2 years from
Yeah,
now, I'll be like, oh yeah,
and
that ladder match back in the day was good. Would I talk about this one? No, no, no,
yeah,
probably not. But it
no,
wasn't bad.
I would think if we're gonna go with memorable one, I was like super impressed with the match that Tiffany Stratton and Naomi were putting on. Like
Yeah,
it was really getting good, and then it came to an end, and I was like, "What? No, do some more stuff," because they were hitting some spots that just had me like I was like, "Wow." It was really, really good. And I think it was the surprise of that match being as good as it was. I mean, no offense to anyone, but I was
yeah,
legitimately surprised in a good way at how good that match was looking. And it really does make me want to see Naomi and Tiffany Stratton run it back because I think they could put on a heck of a match. Um,
yeah.
Bloodline DIY Street Profits. I don't feel like they showed me anything spectacular. I guess the most spectacular thing would be that the Bloodline didn't seem like Tonga Loa didn't screw anything up. Um,
That, you know what? Thank you for bringing that up. That's what this match for me was really about. They needed to have Loa and Tonga, Tama, Loa. They needed
yeah,
the bloodline to look um good. Honestly, they couldn't have any flubs. They couldn't have any fuck ups. They needed them to look competitive, and I think for the most part, they got the point across. They
they
looked
did.
better than I've
They did.
seen them since they've come
Um,
out. They looked like they were on the same wavelength. Um, Flubmeister did not flub. Uh, and little Screechy Animal did not Screechy Animal. So I think they did what they set out to do.
yeah, and I think that was to try and give a little more credibility to the Gorillas of Destiny.
They
Um,
gotta.
and the bar was only at like don't look stupid and don't botch, and they
That's
managed to
it.
pull that off.
Yep. That's all they had to do, and I think they did a pretty good job at it. Yeah.
Yep. So on the whole, I would say that the two matches that I would find most memorable on this night, because I'll forget about the Bloodline one, the main event. Like that's nothing standout aside from the fact that it's one more time that the Street Profits get a shot at the title and don't win. Um,
Yeah.
Nothing was super memorable about Carmelo and AJ. I mean, it
Nope.
just wasn't, and it felt bad because it was like, well, we could have had a good match, but AJ got hurt, kayfabe or not. It was like,
Mhm.
wah, wah. Welcome back, AJ. So for me, it's going to be Meechin and Chelsea Green just because the gimmick match with the dumpster and the long running joke following about Chelsea being stinky, like, and needing to take a shower is funny and it stands out in my mind. And it led to some
Yeah.
of the funnier spots of all, that happened in the SmackDown entirely.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, Meechin's powerbomb to Chelsea Green was no joke. Like I know it was a joke match, but that was a no joke finish, and
Yeah.
I was on the whole much more impressed with that than I had any expectation than I would be. And then just for pure wrestling, like for what you came to see, Tiffany Stratton and Naomi gave us a banger of a match.
Yeah. They
Um,
did.
so those are the two matches that I think I'll remember from this SmackDown. The main event was solid enough, but it was nothing to write home about, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the first match of the night I think is the weakest match because it just didn't do much. Like it wasn't that it was terrible, aside from the fact that in the kayfabe at least AJ got hurt, but it was meh.
Yeah.
Um, so on the whole, I would probably I wouldn't give SmackDown top tier.
No.
But I would definitely give it like on a grade school rating overall, I'd give it a B. You know,
I
and that's where I'd leave it.
maybe a B minus. If I'm being generous, I'd give it a B minus because I mean some of the promos were good and you know, but overall B minus.
I can dig it. Well, that has been our coverage of WWE Smackdown for October 4th. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us. And I certainly hope you join us for the next one. Our next podcast will be our coverage of WWE's Bad Blood PLE.
Mhm.
And I definitely think we're going to have a lot positive to say about that. So, to that end, thank you everyone for joining us. And I'm going to go ahead and roll the outro.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Top Tier Wrestling. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest AEW and WWE news and shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. Follow us on social media for updates and to join the conversation. Until next time, everyone, remember, wrestling is always better when it's top tier.